Every day, 34 people in their 20s and 30s are diagnosed with cancer.
On the 7th of July 2015, I was one of the 34.
On the 28th of August 2008, I was one of the 34.
But in Series 2, we're going younger.
We're teaming up with Teenage Cancer Trust to bring you 7 new storytellers.
As 7 13 to 24-year-olds are diagnosed every day.
So, Series 2 focuses on them.
These are the stories of what happens afterwards.
This is AfterThoughts.
The teenage years.
Hi, Alice.
Hi, Toby. How are you?
Yeah, still in partial lockdown.
What? Oh my days! How I can't imagine why.
Yeah, I thought when we'd start Series 2 of AfterThoughts that we would be, I'd be back in your house enjoying some nice cakes that you've made, maybe a soup that you sometimes made a soup and stuff like that, but
no such luck. Here we are, still talking to each other via Zoom. I think you're the person I've seen most on Zoom over the last 9 months or whatever it is.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
TBC.
TBC, great, wonderful. But we are back. We're here for Series 2 of AfterThoughts, and AfterThoughts, the teenage years.
Yeah, and I am so pumped for this series. We have been lucky enough to we're supported this time by Teenage Cancer Trust, and we have pulled together a collection of brilliant storytellers for you, and not for you, Toby, for the listeners.
Yes.
And it feels good to be back behind the microphone.
It's really interesting as well, having a different insight into something, because I was diagnosed when I was 19 and you were diagnosed when you were
26,
but I was never in a teenage ward or anything like that. I was straight away into an adult ward in the hospital I was in. So it's going to be really interesting, this series, hearing about teenagers who have gone through this experience and differences and things that they have gone through. But I just think we're all going to learn so much.
Yeah, and we've got a really nice spread of ages as well, haven't we? Kind of current ages and ages at diagnosis. And I think, we're going to learn loads. I think you and I are going to get a lot of insights. And, we're part of the cancer community. And I can only imagine how valuable some of these conversations and some of these stories will be for people who maybe aren't in the cancer community.
Before we tell the listeners about our first storyteller, should just what's been going on with you, Alice? If any updates for you?
That was a big exhalation. I don't know. I think it's been such a strange time, and I've spent a lot of time just, I'm going to be perfectly honest here. I've spent a lot of time just trying to keep my head above the water. And I think lots of people will feel the same. I saw somebody use a word on social media the other day that really resonated with me. They said that they'd been feeling rudderless. And I think that in the time of COVID, rudderless is a really good word. Our sense of direction is maybe different to what it usually is. And I've been working and writing and doing some fun stuff, but just trying to get through every day, I guess. What about you? Tell us about what's been going on with you.
Well, mainly my big thing is my slight obsession with houseplants. I don't have a garden. I live in an attic flat in London, and have really missed that green thing, and I have got slightly addicted to houseplants. It's kind of the thing that's got me through lockdown. I think it's been has been really interesting seeing the impact on the cancer community, and it's had devastating impacts on a lot of charities and a lot of the young people that we see, probably more than we would older people, but seeing lots of young people who have been facing difficulties because of what has happened, and people who have had treatment stopped, and it's been really difficult. And we've done some amazing projects with some young people over lockdown, and looking forward to those things going out. We've got Post-Patient Post, which is a piece which we were building with 6 post-patients, which I don't know, that might be a new thing, or push rather, I don't know if that's good.
I am so excited to see the post-patient post office in full flow, and I am very excited for people who might be listening to see that as well when it comes to fruition.
That's been built with 6 young adults over lockdown, and it's going to be going into hospitals very soon. Even maybe it's gone out by the time we've started this kind of pilot of this project. And it's a bit like Afterthoughts, really, Alice. You know, it's peer-to-peer storytelling. And we're going to talk about peer-to-peer storytelling and peer-to-peer support with our first storyteller. Alice, should we go straight into hear from Bhav?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hello and welcome to the second series of Afterthoughts. It's so exciting to be back behind the mic and actually doing this.
It feels weird. Like, I know it's not that long since we did it, but it does feel weird.
Yeah, really weird. But today we are so excited to kick off series 2, the teenage years, with Bhav. And Bhav, you are. Where are you zooming in from? Because we are zooming at the moment still.
I'm zooming in from Hertfordshire.
From Hertfordshire, and you are in your first term of university, right?
Yep, 100%.
What a time to be starting university. Oh my goodness. It must have been quite an adjustment period, eh?
It was honestly, I was so worried because obviously this year, I feel like if you have, like, I was just scared I wasn't going to get on with anyone, to be honest. Because obviously I was like, a lot of it's going to be virtual and I can't, I'm such a different person over like typing rather than being in person. Like, I can't type for anyone. I'd rather be there, be physically like talking.
Yeah, I can't. I just thinking back to my first year at uni, like that it was weird enough being away from home, away from my family, and then like throw in, you know, having to self-isolate and all of that kind of stuff. It just, it's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially when you're like trying to be extra careful, like
of course.
You walk into the kitchen with your wipes and your gloves and you wipe down.
Yeah, of course. And this is something we've talked about and thought about quite a lot. You know, COVID has had a particular impact on people who've had cancer or are going through cancer treatment at the moment. So, yeah, you just have to think about things a bit differently, don't you?
100%. It's all about infection risk. And I guess in this field, we've had so many lectures already on like infection risk, being careful. So I guess we're all prepped and ready. So,
would you like to tell the listeners about the field that you're studying?
So I am, interestingly enough, studying radiotherapy and oncology.
It's very cool. Very cool. Right. Should we make a start?
Well, we always kick off our episodes, Bhav, with the human before the cancer. And so we really we have our quick fire questions. Now, after the controversy of series 1's questions, we've decided to mix them up. Some of them, like we've mixed up a mushroom soup and put it all to the side.
I never want to hear about mushroom soup again.
Never want to hear about mushroom soup again. And also because we didn't want any of our series 2 storytellers to already know the answers to the questions. You know, so there are a few from last series that we've kept in, but they are there's some fresh ones in there.
You're really hamming this up, Toby.
Really hamming this up. Okay. And just as ever, there is only one wrong answer, and that wrong answer is mushroom soup.
Mushroom soup.
So to kick us off, Bhav, could you tell us, please, your pronouns that you use?
Him, he.
Perfect. Who do people say that you look like?
Do you know who plays Caesar Flickerman in the Hunger Games?
Stanley Tucci.
I think it's him. So someone said that someone has said that once, but that's literally it. I've never had it before. Like, that's the only thing.
Oh my God, Stanley Tucci is the best. He's great. I would take it and run. Take it and run.
That's the only one I've ever had.
Brilliant.
And next question. If you could be any toy, what toy would you be?
If I could be any toy, what toy would I be? Probably my Mickey Mouse with the spinning hat and all the lights that come off the hat. So it's the button you press and it's the Mickey Mouse. He's dressed in a wizard's gear and he's got a wizard's hat on and he just spins around. There's loads of lights coming off his hat.
From Fantasia. From Fantasia, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. What's your favourite biscuit?
Good one. Probably. Should I go basic and just say a chocolate digestive?
Oh, can't go wrong with a chocolate digestive.
Simple but effective. So if you could teleport anywhere, where would you teleport?
I'd probably go to Sydney, the Opera House.
Oh, nice. What is your go-to dish to either cook or eat? If you say mushroom soup, you're out.
No. I wish I did then. No. It's, basically, my mum makes these stuffed patties and they're called braute. And like there's one with like a potato filling and there's one with like all these other herbs and spices and they're like my favourite food in the whole world.
Oh my gosh, I'm coming around to your mum's for tea.
Come on.
And last question, cat or dog?
Probably dog.
Ooh, brilliant.
Interesting.
I'm going to be interested to see what the cat versus dog tally is at the end of the series.
Yeah, that will be interesting. I've never had a pet. I've never had either.
Oh.
So it's going off interaction, and I feel like I've had better experiences with dogs than cats.
Interesting. Bhav, please will you tell us, before we move on to the storytelling section, please will you tell us your age now and a little bit, maybe just one line about your diagnosis?
So I am now 19. I almost said 18 because my birthday was like 2 weeks ago. So they'll say 18. But I'm 19. And I was diagnosed with lymphoma non-Hodgkin's in 2015.
And how old were you in 2015?
I was, I want to say I was 13. I'm sure I was 13. Either 12 or 13. My memory is not good.
Chemo brain. We are going to begin by talking about beyond a diagnosis. And we know so much about the kind of moment you hear the words you have cancer or whatever that version might be for you, but we don't necessarily hear what happens afterwards. So, Bhav, we would love to hear a story from you about what happens beyond that diagnosis. Over to you.
So I feel like after you're told, it's like a really obvious, like intense experience, and obviously people react in different ways. But I feel like that day, like after it all happened and everything, I kind of wanted like normality in a sense. It's like it was just like getting in the car, going back, not knowing what to say or like how to process it completely. So obviously given all this big whack of information. And I remember I had a music lesson that day. So instead of like cancelling it, I was like, oh, I may as well just kind of just like go and see her. Because I know this like my music teacher has known me since I was 3. Like I've literally been having music lessons since I was 3 because my sister went to her. So I like started off on the recorder and then I moved on to piano. So I'd been playing piano for a while. I'm not amazing by any means at all. And she'd probably tell you this today. She'd say that he never practices. She's not really wrong. But then I remember going there, like my parents stayed with me and we kind of spoke with her for a little bit, and then I kind of talked to her. I don't think much piano playing happened, but it was kind of just like a nice like little chat, because she was like, I think she was probably like one of the first people like we actually kind of like spoke to about it, and it was kind of a strange day. And then I remember after that it was I'm sure it was one of my cousin's birthdays. If it wasn't that day, it was one of the days around then. But like everyone comes round, you have a cake, you fry some like Indian snacks, and you have like food, and everyone's just like sit there, stood around, everyone's like talking, just getting along, taking pictures and videos. And it's honestly all just one big blur that night is. All I remember is thinking is like, okay, these are the same people. They're always going to be there. Yeah. And I didn't, because we weren't sure exactly what treatment plan I was going to have. So obviously, like in those, like my diagnosis was quite, it was quite rare, like the type of lymphoma I had, and they hadn't seen it in a while, so they were unsure of what was actually going to happen. They weren't sure if it was just going to be another surgery or, you know, typical stuff. They just needed to have an MDT meeting, like the team multidisciplinary team meeting, to find out what the next steps were. So I was like, I don't really want to tell anyone, because why worry people unnecessarily? And that's how I see it personally. And I don't like, one of the things I really don't like are people asking, are you okay? Every 5 minutes. I want to be treated normally. So I was like, just have a bit of normality. I kind of went, and for that little bit, you kind of just felt like there's something different inside of me, but at the same time, I'm the same person. So I guess it was kind of nice, just kind of just seeing everyone. And I guess that was the first time I actually started appreciating the people around me a lot more. Like I looked around and I was like, wow, like these are my family. And that was especially like when I went back to school, like the next day, because I didn't go to school the day, and I was told, it was like going back after like seeing all like my family, having my music lesson. I was like, okay, like this is just, nothing's changed. Like something has changed, and I had apprehension, but at the same time, life is still going to go on. Like I'm lucky that I'm still here. Like life is still going on. And I guess that's what it was. It's kind of every day you kind of look around, and life is still carrying on. Although this has happened, and although your head's a bit of a blur, at the end of the day, there is still, there's no, I don't know how you really define normality, but there was still that kind of stability in my life for that period of time, like after I found out. It's that reminder, you have to keep reminding yourself. Like obviously I'm not acting like I was completely fine, because I wasn't.
Yeah.
By no means was I. I was shouting and screaming when I found out, and then afterwards I was like, okay, right. Like I was obviously really anxious, but it was that constant thing, like, hey, I'm here. Like we're gonna have to deal with this, but not everything's changed. Not everything is gonna change. Not everything has to change. It's just one thing that's changing.
Yeah.
And it's remembering that, I think, is the most important thing.
So our next story that we are going to be focusing on Afterthoughts, the teenage years, is those around us. And those around us focuses on the stories of those people who go through the experience with us. We know that cancer affects not only the person who's going through it, but those people who are around them as well. So, Bhav, we're going to go to you for a story of those who are around you.
So I guess I'll probably start this one. And it's going to be around me, like one of the main people throughout my cancer treatment. Although she didn't have anything to do, she didn't have as much to do with my treatment plan, and I didn't have much contact with her when I was actually having my treatment. It's the consultant who was at my local hospital, where I wasn't treated there. I was treated in the Birmingham Children's, but she was like an anchor almost at home. So I first met her pre-diagnosis when I went to my local hospital just with lymph nodes in my neck, and it wasn't actually her who I was seeing a general paediatrician, and it just happened that the paediatrician had called her in without me knowing that she was an oncologist. We had no idea at the time, and she was called in just to take a look. That was my first ever memory of her. That's like vivid, of her kind of running into the treatment room, being like, yeah, what can I do? Having a look, being like, okay, and then going. Then after that, the next time I remember seeing her was probably a long time after. I think I must have seen her like once or twice whilst I was having treatment. But as far as I can remember, it was post-treatment. And I guess that's where it all starts. So I'd obviously had a lot of involvement with Teenage Cancer Trust, seen them a lot. They'd introduced me to a lot of different things, a lot of new people. And I'd made like a few connections, but not, I did obviously have like friends with them, but I remember when they mentioned something about a sailing trip. And then my consultant, this wonderful lady, asked me again about the sailing trip. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure if that's for me. I'm not sure how I am on boats. I'm a bit iffy, like I'm not sure how I'm going to get on. I was really anxious, and she was like, okay. She's like, Bhav, you're going on this trip. She goes, we're going together. Next thing you know, my mum's packed all of my bags for me. I'm getting in the car, pull up at the station. You ready to go? And I was bricking it. I did not want to go at all. I do get homesick quite fast now. I've got a big reliance on my parents. I could call them multiple times a day. And I remember her saying to my mum and dad, they were like, he'll be fine. I remember my mum saying, make sure you push him a little bit. Make sure you push him out of his comfort zone and make him do new things. And she goes, don't worry, we've got that sorted. And I kind of like remember being there and she's like, hey, you're going to be fine. She's like, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. Or you're going to have fun. You're going to have the best week of your life. And I was like, I'm not. And I got it in my head. I was like, I'm not going to enjoy this. This is going to be such a waste of time. I don't know what I'm doing here. And it was honestly one of the best weeks of my entire life. I remember it so vividly. I remember at first I was very clingy to my consultant. I was like, okay, so you're going there. And I was like, hey, I'm just next door then, so I can run across if I need anything. She's like, no, you're not going to run across if you need anything. Your people are on this boat. If you need anything, you talk to them. She's very like, you're going to be fine. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it. And I remember the first few days, I was kind of a bit, and then I started to like make friends, like I was opening up a bit more, and I was starting to have fun, and I was starting to like make connections, starting to make those memories, which I still have now, and I've still got those friends as well, fair few of them, still talk to them, there's especially 2 of them, I speak to them every day without a doubt. And then we go forward, and I remember it was on the 3rd day of the trip, and there was a surprise. I hate surprises with a passion. I do not enjoy a surprise. Very, very few surprises in my eyes go right. So then I remember being stood there on the side of this thing waiting for this so-called surprise, and I was like, what is going to happen? And these jet skis come around the corner, not jet skis, I've forgotten what they're called, like speedboat things. And I was like, I'm not getting on that. I am not getting on that. She's like, yes, you are. She goes, everyone's doing it. She goes, come on, let's go. We're going. And I remember getting on. And at first, I was holding onto the seat in front of me for dear life. My hands are probably starting to swell up from how tight I was holding on. Ever since then, every trip we've been on, if I ever get a chance to go on the rib, I'm always on it. I always like being at the front. I absolutely love it now. So little things like that, where she like kind of, when people were like, you're going to enjoy it, just do it, just have a go. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. Is ever since then I've actually started to open up and start doing things like this myself, like from around then, because it was obviously someone I really trusted who was telling me just to do it, you're going to be fine. I feel like since then I've had to put that position on myself, and then ever since then, every single year I've had the chance to have gone back to Ellen MacArthur. I now honestly, like, I know I keep saying it, my three of my closest friends are from those trips. We adore each other. I FaceTime one of them in particular every single day. I talk to her without a doubt. And I always think back, if I didn't go on that trip, I wouldn't know these people. And second of all, I feel like those trips, especially having the consultant there as well, it made me kind of realise I'm fine. And that's when I made my connections, I think, on the whole, with that and the Teenage Cancer Trust kind of events. That's when I like realised, okay, there's other people who've been through this and we're in it together, and they actually understand what I've been through. It's not like other people saying, we know what you've been through. Because no, at the end of the day, we all have different experiences. So no one truly knows what you've been through but yourself. But I feel like these people, we were actually relating with each other, and it was so nice. And yeah, I love it. And that consultant, every time, I wasn't her favourite patient at all times because I was a medical mystery in her eyes. The amount of stuff that went wrong with me, she was amazed most of the time. But I remember my last appointment, it wasn't in person, it was on the phone. My last proper appointment with her has been and gone, but I will never forget her. She's honestly such an amazing person. She's great. Yeah.
And now we're going to move on to talking about the invisible impacts. So, there's so much stuff that happens around a cancer diagnosis, and there's lots of stuff that gets talked about, and there's lots of stuff that doesn't get talked about so much. And we want to hear some of the invisible impacts. So Bhav, I'm going to hand over to you to tell us a story about some of your invisible impacts.
So I'm going to start this when I was actually on treatment. So Birmingham Children's is far from my house. It takes a good like hour in the morning, sometimes even like an hour and 20. So we always used to leave at like 20 to 8, just so we'd get there on time for 9. And like obviously I sometimes made us really late, but that's beyond the point. So I remember kind of like, so you park up, but there's no, so where it is like the children's A&E, it's all changed now, but like where when I was having treatment, the children's A&E was there, so you couldn't park the car near the actual thing. So we used to park outside like this random shop, and it was just kind of dingy looking, a bit depressing. And the walk down to the hospital, it was kind of like a slope, but it wasn't. And they had these owls there once, because there was a big owl trail. And I remember there was just like this owl was there once, and as you walk down, you sometimes get to walk, but there's 2 ways to go. One way was past the Birmingham Children's Hospital shop, and I was used to like sometimes go in and just get like a pen or something every time we'd go in. And then there was the other way, which was the way you'd go down. It was really cold in sometimes in the mornings, but like it'd get really hot in the days. And the corridor was like blue, and the floor was just weird. And then you kind of walk in, and the waiting room was directly to your right when you walk in. And there's like these like sofa kind of looking things. There's a rocking horse, and then there was the reception desk was like hit your eye as soon as you looked in. And then normally you have to like sit there for a bit, wait, and then you'd walk down the corridor past the bell you'd ring after you finish treatment. And then you'd walk past the bead station, which is that where you put your beads on. So every time you have a different thing, like an immunization or whatever, you used to put beads on this thing. So like, oh yeah, if you have your line flushed, it was one colour, dose of chemo, it was another colour. And like your whole journey is represented in these beads. I loved them like so much. I've still got mine, look at them like all the time. And so you walk past them, and you walk past all like the rooms where they do your obs and stuff. I was in the day warden's particular day, and there was this girl, I'd seen her a few times. She must have been about like 5 or 6, I'm not really 100% sure. And she was always there with her mum, and there was also 2 younger children with them. And it was in, so a lot of my treatment was done in school holidays. So obviously like childcare, there wasn't school for the kids to be at. It was hard. And I remember the mum saying like how difficult it had been on her. So she'd actually like quit her job. It was difficult on like the work-life balance, because obviously she could no longer work, and there was no childcare facilities for the other siblings. They were all kind of like stuck in a, don't get me wrong, Birmingham Children's is lovely, but it is not the place where you want young kids to spend their summer holidays. It's just not a place you want to be in. Like it's so like, they make it as homely as they can, but at the end of the day, it's a clinical environment. And I guess it was looking at them and then looking at what I had. And I'm honestly so fortunate. I don't think I ever say how lucky I am to be in the position I'm in. My parents are both wonderful. We were able to manage on like that kind of front. Like my dad was still able to go to work. My mom could stay with me. Every time we needed anything, we knew we could call my grandma. We could call my aunts and uncles. We could call everyone was there for us. The drop of a hat. My friends were there for me. Everyone was there. I was so blessed on that front. And then I looked at them, and it really like hit home how lucky like I am as a person, how fortunate I am to be in this position. And as you go on, you meet more people, you think, wow, I was a lucky one. Like obviously this still happened, but if this hadn't have happened, I wouldn't have realised the position I'm in. And therefore, it's from then I kind of realised I want to help people who've been in a similar thing. I want to pay pay it back. All the support that I received in any way I could, I wanted to give it back. So that's when I first started like volunteering with Teenage Cancer Trust, and I absolutely loved it, absolutely enjoyed it. I've never done anything like it's rewarding because you feel like you're doing something, you feel like you're being proactive. Like I'm the kind of person, I like doing physical things, I like talking, as you've probably established from this. I'm very big on my voice. And it was like, wow, I can actually do something to help other people. And I guess it was when I found this degree. I'm very into like technology. I like technology a lot. I like seeing like the new advancements in the field, especially in radiotherapy. It's something that's always fascinated me. But it was then when I found this degree, I was like, wow, there's also such a big patient care side of it. I absolutely love it. Like I've done some work experience where you have to interact with lots of different people from all different backgrounds. And I felt nothing is as diverse as a cancer was. At the end of the day, cancer doesn't discriminate. And it was kind of like, I can actually do something. I can talk to people. I can make their day better. As like I can be that one person who they can like see in the morning, and that could improve their whole experience. Like if I have the power to actually do something in this field where I'm being proactive, and then but you also get that reminder like not everyone's as lucky as you, so you should always do the little you can to help someone else, to make someone else's day. I'm guilty of this. Obviously, we all are, being like, oh, I can't be bothered. Oh, I hate my life. Da 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 da. But then it hits you. No, I don't hate my life. I am so lucky. I'm so blessed to be where I am, and I feel like that is kind of one of the beautiful things that this whole experience has taught me. To be honest, yeah. So I guess the overall invisible impact was ended up me changing my whole life path.
So the next section of Afterthoughts, we are introducing a new section called Teenage Kicks. And we're really wanting to focus on those stories that a teenager who has had cancer will have experienced and will have had compared to a teenager who hasn't gone through that. We're really interested to hear. We were thinking about, and from series 1, Dan, who was involved, really talked about the fact that when they were diagnosed, that there was suddenly this wall went up, and it meant that they were suddenly on the other side of the wall and others didn't understand what was going on. And so we're interested to hear the stories that are behind the wall. How did that sound, Alice? Perfect. Great. So Bhav, we're going to head over to you for a story in the first section of Teenage Kicks.
So I guess one thing that I had, which a lot of cancer patients probably relate to, is having a CVL in Hickman line. Everyone calls me different things. I've honestly lost the plot. But like I feel like most people would relate with central line or Hickman line. Most people probably understand that. It was having that in, and that's probably one of my least favorite. Obviously, having treatment is just nasty, but for me in particular, I love my showers. I know that sounds really strange. I love showering. I do it as a hobby these days. And it was when you had the line and they were like, okay, you can't shower for blah amount of time. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do this. Then it was like, okay, it's just the showering that's going to be an issue. Like having to bandage it up every time. It's fine. Having it flushed, I can deal with. And then I was like, actually, this line is actually starting to play on my mind a bit now, because I'm starting to realise I can't go to theme parks because I'm scared it's going to get pushed in or something. I don't want to go. I can't go swimming, obviously, because the line's there. And the line isn't supposed to restrict you. That's not what it's there for. It's there to actually help you with your treatment. That's a given. But there's a lot of like things that you don't realize until it's in, because before it's in, you're always like, oh, it's going to be fine, it's just something that's there. but it's always subconsciously you're always thinking, okay, is my line okay? Like sometimes I just chat, like quickly look down my shirt and be like, okay, it's fine, it's there, like it's not being pulled or anything, or I better go and change my bandage now, like I can feel it's time to go a bit. Every 10-20 minutes, especially for the first like 2, 3, 4 weeks, was focused on my line. Even when I went back to school in September, my line was all I was checking on. No one else had to think about this. No one else had to consider their line. Everyone else could do whatever they wanted to do. They could go swimming, they could play their football or whatever. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to act like I was sporty before. I wasn't. I wouldn't have played football anyway, let's be real. But it was just simple things, like even having my school bag on my back. I'd just be like, oh, I don't want to pull my line. And my friends were great about that. They would like always help me out and do what they could. But it was always that subconscious thing about, oh, I can't do certain things now. Like if I wanted to do a charity skydive, I couldn't. So then it was like, oh, what can I do that isn't going to impact this at all? And I know this sounds random because there's plenty of things I could have done, but I turned to baking. It was one of my sister's favourite things anyway. And then I hopped on the trend. And next thing you know, we were making a cake a day, even though I wasn't supposed to be eating that much sugar. It was kind of my hobby, my pastime. We used to make them for the nurses sometimes and the doctors, like when I was on treatment, because it'd brighten their day up, and then I'd get happy seeing that they were happy. And then I was like, oh, what could I actually do with this that could do something even more? And that's when I first started doing charity, like stuff for Teenage Cancer Trust, and that first thing was actually bake sale at school. So I'd just gone back, and I remember the night before I'd organised it for some posters around school, and then one of my friends made brownies, and another one of my friends made cupcakes, and I was at home going overboard. Me and my mom, my sister made a chocolate cake, a Victoria sponge, cupcakes. We went a bit crazy, and then I remember going to school and setting it all up, and it was a bit of fun, but it was just nice to know that it was fun, that was actually him going to make an impact. I mean, we only raised 50 quid. I mean, it's not a massive amount of money at all by any means. It was just showing how easily you could turn something you enjoy into something that's going to help others as well. Like, it's just little things like that that I've always played in my head, that unless I'd been through this, I wouldn't have thought about things like that. And yeah, I still bake now sometimes, although my mom's taken over slightly, but her cakes are good, I can't even lie to you. Yeah, still like making an odd fondant every now and again, but that's kind of, yeah.
If you were in the tent and you had to take something to the gingham altar and present it to Paul Hollywood and Prue Leith, what would your showstopper be? It's a big question, I know.
I don't know. I'd want to go for something basic. My favourite thing to make is a chocolate fondant. And I know they never go right on any TV show. At home, 9 times out of 10, I've managed to get it right now because I make them that much.
That is a skill, my friend. That is quite a skill. If you can make a chocolate fondant, I'm impressed.
It's my favourite thing to make. Every time I go home now, I'm like, fondants.
You'll have to make them for your new flatmates, and then they will love you.
You guys are going to have to come as well. Come and try them.
Yeah. Oh my days. Toby, what were you going to...
Well, I have to share, like when you were telling, like I love AfterThoughts as well for this reason as well, where like you tell a story and then suddenly I'm like, oh, I forgot all about this. And I have to tell you about this. So I forgot that, like, so when I was at E15, a drama school, when I was diagnosed, and I came back and people knew what had happened, and I was having treatment alongside it. But there was this other guy who also wanted to raise some money for Macmillan, and he'd sadly lost his mum to cancer quite recently, and he asked me if we wanted to team up so we could raise some funds for these things. And I was like, yeah, okay. And because we were in a drama school, they were like, okay, so we're going to do like this. I think we did like a fashion walk / like talent show. And I remember just like flashbacks to, I was dancing in a morph suit to Lady Gaga, like with these other guys, like and doing that. But the big thing which I always remember, and is like to this day, we still kind of like speak about the ridiculous thing that one of my best friends did, which was that, so he was dating this girl and they decided to sing a song. And like, I was like, cool, great, sing a song. He was like, it's from Les Mis. And I was like, cool, great. He's a brilliant singer. I was like, fantastic. So picture this, we're in this like dance studio and they're at two different ends of this like catwalk and they're staring into each other's eyes and they are singing Empty Chairs at Empty Tables. And it's like empty chairs and empty tables, and it's just a song about people dying, and it was just so awkward. And like, because they were just staring intensely at each other but singing this song about like people dying and at a cancer charity gig, and everybody was just sitting there so awkwardly going, why would you do this? So you just brought that back for me and I had to share it. I had to share that moment. Thank you for that. I felt really good to share that story. That's made me feel
that was a good story.
Oh my goodness. We are coming on now to the topic of lost conversations. And as I always say when I'm introducing this segment, the cancer community are getting really good at talking about things, and especially the young cancer community, I think, you know, with the advent of social media, we're getting great at shining a light on some topics, but we can always do more. So, Bhav, we would be really interested to hear a story from you about the lost conversations that you think we should be having.
So I think the most important thing in my eyes is being able to, if for instance, if you've got something on your chest or you think something's happening to you, if you can relate to someone who's been through a similar experience and they can be like, that happens to me too, that is such a great thing to have. Like, I feel like that is one of the most special things to have. Although you're not necessarily relating about something good, like going on holiday or something, you're relating about cancer and cancer treatment and cancer side effects, it's still so lovely to have that connection. So one of my like biggest parts in my life is my friend Tash. So we were both at similar ages when we were both diagnosed, from completely different parts of the country, from like 100 and something miles away from each other. Had no idea who she was at the time. It was honestly, we met through, I'm pretty sure it was Ellen MacArthur actually, and that and Teenage Cancer Trust. And we weren't really close to start off with. We were just like friends, and as time's gone on, we have become so close. And she's that person, we could literally just be on the FaceTime, or we could, like, when I met up with her once or twice, it's just like, oh, so how are you? Like, what's going on? Although we didn't have exactly the same treatment at all, we didn't have the exact same cancer, we had similar cancers. Her treatment was completely different to mine. She's a completely different person to me. We still relate on some things, like some side effects of treatment. We relate on, like, oh, did this happen to you too? Like when you were on treatment, yeah. Or have you got, like, had your transition clinic appointment? Has this happened to you? Has this happened to you? Like, all these little things that can actually make a big difference, because something could be playing on my mind, like, oh, I've googled this side effect of my treatment, like, oh, I'm feeling a bit weird, like, why is it not coming up on the internet? And then we're on FaceTime and I'll be like, yeah, this happened to me. And then she turns around and she goes, stop. And I'll be like, why? And she goes, same thing happened to me last week. And it's just like, what? So I'm not alone. I'm not being, like, silly for thinking this. I'm not being crazy for building this up in my head. And then she's like, no, not at all. And it's not just you as well, because my friend felt the same thing. And what like upsets me is that, like, I've met people very recently who've been like, oh yeah, I had cancer. I'll be like, oh, I did too. And they're like, wow, I've never met anyone who's been through anything remotely, like, who's even had cancer. I've never met anyone our age. And then all of a sudden, just by having that one mutual connection, by this one thing, they feel better already. And I feel better, because it's like, oh, you're not alone, like don't worry, like we've been through this together, we're now both 5 years in remission, we actually got diagnosed in the same month, me and this person I met the other day, again hundreds of miles away, but we somehow by coincidence met in the middle of nowhere here. And then it's just like, oh, so like then she was like, oh, so yeah, it's like it's a bit weird, isn't it? Like I've still got this appointment, I'm waiting for this. I'll be like, me too, I'm waiting for that as well. And then I'll be like, oh, yeah, I was like, oh, I'm not feeling like too great or whatever. And she'd be like, oh, I get like that sometimes. So it's nice for me to know that I'm not being silly when this and that happen. Obviously, if something serious, you go to your GP or your consultant or whatever. But it's the little things, like even like the emotional things, like, oh, yeah, like, oh, it's the day I got diagnosed today. Like, oh, it's a bit like a somber day, but like I'm actually kind of like happy because it shows how far I've come. And then she'd be like, same. And then she'd be like, oh, do you get like a bit deep sometimes and just think, wow, imagine if this hadn't have happened, I wouldn't have known you? And I'd be like, yeah. Like we can literally relate over so many different things, but it's just because we've had such a similar experience at a similar age. And it's really like, I feel like we need to get better at helping people who aren't like, I'm fairly loud and fairly like I'm extrovert. I feel like I'm quite approachable. But for people who are the complete opposite, who are introverts, who like are scared of going out and making connections, I feel like we need to get better at helping other people get the same access to support and services, and even access to other people so that they can talk and relate so they don't feel alone. Because it's not nice to feel alone. Even no amount of counselling is going to fix the fact that you've got something and you don't know if it's normal because you're not sure if anyone else goes through the same thing. You feel so much better when someone else says, I have that too, don't worry.
Yeah, I think it is really important, and it's something that loads of people are trying to kind of improve. But we can always do better. But Brad, who was on series 1, has set up basically a peer-to-peer support network called Alike. And yeah, like people like Brad and organisations like Teenage Cancer Trust and Ellen MacArthur and Trekstock and Copperfield and all of these organisations that are facilitating this connection. It's crucial. And I guess it goes back to what we were saying before as well about how important supporting those organizations are, how important it is to support those organizations, because these connections are crucial, especially for young people.
Yeah. I feel like another thing is, I know you're always going to leave people out, but I feel like we need to get better at we are getting way better at being more inclusive, but it's people who don't necessarily have access to online or are scared of using the internet, or we need to get better at helping people to find the resources in the first place.
So we are down to the last section of Afterthoughts, and we have brought back series 1 favourites for the last section, which is Don't Laugh. And we think it's important to talk about the funny side of an experience of cancer, because there are moments that are funny and amusing, and it's important to share those as much as it is to share the harder moments as well. So, Bhav, it's over to you to tell us a story for the Don't Laugh section.
So one thing that I'm not good at is recovering from anesthesia. It takes me a while to get back with it. I mean, it takes me a while to wake up normally, but let's put it this way, after you've had that, there's no waking me up. So normally I'd be like, okay, I'd always like before when I had operations, even before before treatment and the line and stuff, I'd always be like, yeah, put in a massive food order at the hospital, have a massive plate waiting for me after I come out, wouldn't eat any of it. And so this time I'd like gone in, woke up, and obviously don't let you eat until you've they don't let you eat until you've gone. No, they don't let you go until you've eaten something. And so I had like a bit of a sandwich, funny enough was tuna. And then we got home, and I'm pretty sure this was the one where I had my lymph node removed. So we got home, and it was me and mum and dad were driving away from the hospital, and they were like, are you all right? And I was like, yeah. They're like, what do you want to eat? And I'm someone who sometimes struggles with like really greasy food anyway, occasionally. I was just adamant about having a kebab for some reason. I was like stuck on it. My nan had called us on the way home and she'd been like, oh, do you want us to make you anything? Do you want some fresh home food? And I was like, no, I want a kebab. My sister was like, are you sure that's a good idea? And I was like, yes, I'm having it. My parents were like, are you sure? Like, you feel a bit sick when you eat stuff like that. And I was like, I'm eating it. I'm gonna eat it all. I'm gonna finish it. They were like, are you take it easy? No. I was so desperate for this kebab, we took a detour on the way home. They wouldn't even let them go all the way home. They had to make a detour on the route, drive an extra 20 minutes just to get me this kebab and chips for some reason. And so we get back, I sit down, don't want to wait, open it, start eating. I don't even think I had one bite and I felt so sick. I was actually about to throw up everywhere. My sister trying to give me water and I just couldn't have it. Woke up the next morning, smelt kebab. Didn't end well. I did not feel good at all.
I could see where that was going. Like, as soon as you started the story, I could see what was going to happen. And that, yeah, I love that.
Put it this way, the I told you so's never ended. They're still going now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet if you ever have a kebab at home, your mum's like, told you so. I love that.
I remember waking up after, like, didn't have many surgeries, but I had some surgery before I had cancer, and I had a blockage in my bowel, and I remember waking up and I'd had quite a major surgery and not seeing my parents beforehand. They'd kind of gone in and gone, right, you need to have this surgery, and I was under for many hours, and I'm sure it was really stressful for them. Like, I was asleep, it's all fine, and all this stuff. And like, I remember waking up and seeing my mum, seeing my dad, seeing my brother there, and they're kind of all huddled around. And like, first thing I did was just projectile vomit everywhere, and then fell straight back to sleep.
Oh my God.
And that was like, and then that was kind of it. And it was just,
I love that.
Great. That's the delights of anesthetic.
I remember when I came around from one surgery, they always let Chris in the room, even though they weren't supposed to. Like, they always let him in the recovery suite. And this is my husband. And I was just chatting away to him, like, off my face on morphine or whatever, like high as a kite. And then I just went, oh yeah, by the way, I've lost my nipple. Just like I dropped it in the park. Like, not like they'd chopped it off. And he vividly remembers me just being like, oh yeah.
I bet some of those recovery, like anesthesia recovery, like staff have some great stories of patients.
Oh, I bet they do. I bet they
do.
Yeah,
you've got to like, I guess in radiotherapy, like if you get like that, you're not going to get those. So I think you need to change today. I think that's like, you need to email your uni right now and say, do you know what? I'm interested in it, but am I going to get any of these great stories? Like,
am I going to find the lols in radiotherapy?
That's all I'm looking for.
Bhav, honestly, it's been such a pleasure to have you on AfterThoughts.
No, it's been a pleasure being here. I'm so grateful for this opportunity as well. It's like such a nice thing to be able to do. It's great. I've loved it.
That's so good to hear. It's been absolutely fab to have you on.
And to be our first on series 2, like
the teenage years, pow, pow, pow.
Just to note, listeners, that Alice has just done a kapow, kapow, kapow movement that goes alongside this. And if anything, Alice, I think you lasted the whole episode without incredibly embarrassing yourself and showing that we're not teenagers. And then there was this moment when you just did it. So,
yeah, fair enough. Oh well, I'm 32 and proud.
Whoa. So Alice, there we have it. That is episode 1 of series 2 of AfterThoughts, the teenage years, with Bhav. So let's finish this episode the same way that we've been finishing every episode. I'm really interested to hear your afterthoughts on afterthoughts.
My afterthoughts on afterthoughts, Toby. First of all, I hope Bhav will forgive me for saying this. He's adorable. And secondly, just when Bhav was talking, it really reiterated to me the importance of this podcast. And it made me remember why we do it. And I thought his stories were powerful, and I thought that they really need to be heard. And I hope that our listeners enjoyed listening to Bhav as much as I enjoyed listening to Bhav. I was mesmerised. What about you? What are your afterthoughts on afterthoughts today?
I mean, it's so lovely to be back, and like we were both slightly nervous and a bit like, oh, we're going to be rusty, and Bhav was just incredible, and I think he there were so many stories that started popping back into my head when he was telling his stories, and I hope our listeners are having that as well, of those connections, those different things that he was talking to us about. I also think there was he talked a lot about charities. I've only just kind of looking down my notes, reflecting on that and how important they are to young people going through an experience of cancer. And we know that charities are going through an incredibly difficult time right now, and the voices of young people telling the stories of how important they are seem so, I just said important about 5 times, but they seem so important. And so just, it's great to be back. Wonderful to have storytellers like Bhav, and can't wait to see what the rest of series 2 has.
Me neither. Thanks for listening. If today's episode of Afterthoughts has brought up any thoughts or feelings that you'd like to speak to somebody about, we really recommend grabbing a cuppa with a friend or dropping them a message on WhatsApp. There are also tons of charities out there who can help you if you've been through cancer and need a bit of extra psychological support. Thanks so much to Teenage Cancer Trust for supporting Afterthoughts, the teenage years, and supporting teens and young adults diagnosed with cancer in the UK. The work they do is incredible. Find out more at teenagecancertrust.org. Afterthoughts is produced by Alice May Purkiss and Toby Peach from Beyond Arts, with sound design by Kieran Lucas.